Hi, uh, today in this video I'll be discussing the securities market, corporate securities and government securities constitute important investment avenues for savers. These are traded in the securities market. Creation of a portfolio and the periodic revision of the portfolio involves buying and selling of securities in the securities market. An understanding of the working of securities market is therefore essential for a portfolio manager. However, the functioning of the securities market is too vast to confine with a single video presentation. So I am making an attempt so that I'll be explaining the basic features of the securities market and to have a brief understanding about the various markets that we are going to deal with the investments. Let me discuss about the financial market. A market is a place used for buying and selling goods, as we have discussed in the earlier video presentation. This is a commonest meaning of the word market, but the usual features of a market are a place, some buyers, some sellers, and some commodity to be exchanged for money or some other commodity. This is what we know actually a general market. What transpires in a market is an exchange of a commodity between a buyer and a seller. However, such an exchange can take place even without a common meeting place or physical space. Hence, a physical place is not an essential constituent of a market, but it is rather the mechanism which is used for the exchange of goods. Generally, in an ordinary market, what is usually exchanged is a physical commodity, such as like fruits, grains, etc. In modern day market, these commodities are valued in monetary terms and are exchanged for money. A commodity that is in demand is exchanged between buyers and sellers in the market. So the various economic units like individuals in the household sector, business units in the industrial and commercial sector and government organizations are engaged in various economic activities and transactions involving money. Some of them spend more money than they earn and end up in financial deficit, while others earn more money and they spend, thus ending up in a financial surplus. The deficit generators are usually the units in the industrial, commercial and government sectors. The surplus generators are mostly the units in the household sector. So the deficit generators, who are known as ultimate borrowers, would like to borrow the funds from the surplus generators, who are the primary lenders. So such transfer of funds is possible and also necessary to sustain the development of the economy. So here the transfer of funds between primary lenders and ultimate borrowers takes place through the creation of securities or financial assets. If an individual is not spending all his income on consumption, he will want to find a temporary repository for his current saving until they are required to finance the future consumption. This involves the purchase of financial asset or security. If the investor deposits the money in the fixed deposit of a commercial bank, the bank issues him a fixed deposit receipt, which is a financial asset. The individual is purchasing a financial asset and thereby transferring the surplus funds at his disposal to a financial intermediary. The bank, in turn, may lend the money to a business unit through the creation of a loan arrangement. So let us consider another example of transfer of funds. A company in need of funds may issue shares to mobilize the funds. In a public issue of shares, any individual with surplus funds may participate. That means, say, for example, if I have more money apart from my commitments, still I left some money, so I can participate. Because if shares are allotted to such an individual, the company which is the borrower of funds will issue a share certificate to the investor who is the lender of funds. In such situation, a financial asset in the form of a share certificate is being exchanged. So this exchange represents a marketing transaction and a market which nevertheless has no physical location. So here what you have to understand is the commodity being exchanged is a financial asset instead of a physical asset. So the investor is the buyer of the asset and the borrower of funds is the seller of the asset. That means the company or the organization who is issuing the security. The mechanism or the system through which the financial assets are created and transferred is known as the financial market. When the financial assets transferred are corporate securities and government securities, the mechanism of transfer is known as the securities market. So here at this point of time, let me explain the segments of the various financial market. Different types of securities are traded in the securities market. This may include ownership securities, debt securities, short-term securities, long-term securities, non-government or corporate securities. The nature of return and the risk involved in the short-term securities is vastly different from that of the long-term securities. Hence, on the basis of the maturity period of the securities are traded in the market. The securities market is segmented into money market and capital market. Money market, which is the market for short-term financial assets with the maturities of not more than a year or less. Treasury bills, commercial paper, certificate of deposits are some of the examples of the short-term securities which are traded in the money market. So these instruments being close substitute for money, the market for their trading is known as money market. So money market is the main source of working capital funds for business and industry because it provides a mechanism for short-term surpluses and deficits. The short-term requirements of borrowers can be met by the creation of money market securities which can be purchased by the lenders with short-term surpluses to park their funds for short durations. So here in India, the money market has a narrow base with a limited number of participants who are mostly financial institutions. So capital market on the other hand is a market segment where securities with the maturities of more than 1 year are bought and sold, like equity shares, preference shares, debentures, and bonds are the examples of the long-term securities which are traded in the capital market. So we'll be continuing in the next presentation. Thank you.